This is Hammer Striker here. A little while ago we did a video comparing 22 WMR to 5-7, 5-7 by 28, from the standpoint of is 22 WMR as good as 5-7. And of course, you'll have to watch that video to see our conclusion. But we had been lent this Kel-Tec PMR-30 that's right here, and of course we've had this 5-7 for a while. And while we had the PMR-30, we figured we'd do a quick comparison on the two guns that you would choose from. And I know it's not exactly a fair comparison to try to compare them one against each other. You've got a $1,300 gun over here in the 5-7 and a $400 gun in the Kel-Tec. So it's not that kind of comparison, which one is better. It's more about what are the differences between them, and if you're trying to choose the caliber, what's one of the options you might have for the gun for each of the two calibers. Because surprisingly, both of them, there's quite a bit of limitations in the choice of the gun for the caliber. There's not a whole lot chambered in the 5-7, and there's not a whole lot in the automatic realm chambered in 22 Magnum. So we are kind of looking at a couple of unicorns as far as for each caliber, being rather limited to these, and there may be a couple others that I'm not aware of. But unlike 9mm, where you've got 100 different guns to choose from, when you're talking 5-7 and 22 WMR, you're kind of looking at it. So we'll start out with, of course, we have unloaded guns here. This is the FN 5-7, and it chambers the 5-7 by 28 round, which comes in a few different flavors, from a 27 grain up to a 40 grain. And it's a 22-ish caliber, as far as the diameter of the bullet, and it's a rifle, bottleneck rifle round. And they go ridiculously fast, and they're quite powerful. The gun comes with 20 round magazines, and there are 10 round magazines available. And it's a fairly large magazine, as you might imagine, because it is basically a rifle round. So, that's kind of a rough footprint of what the round looks like. So it's a fairly large round. The gun itself is actually relatively light, comes in at 21 ounces. Now the Kel-Tec wins that particular comparison, coming in at 14 ounces. And it's got very nice 3-dot sights, which are adjustable. So you see you got the adjustments there on the sights. Now if I flip over to the Kel-Tec for a second, talk about that a little bit. It is also unloaded, of course. It comes with a 30 round magazine, and it uses this heel release, which is a little bit counterintuitive for most American users. They're used to either a paddle or a button somewhere along here. And one thing I will note on the 5-7, it's ambidextrous. I'm sorry, it's reversible. The magazine release is reversible. This one, it's set up for a right-handed shooter. And this one is kind of by definition ambi. It's equally annoying for either hand size to use, because it's not what you're used to. You have to reach down there and push it and pull the magazine out. The sights on the Kel-Tec, it comes factory with fiber optic 3-dot sights. Actually quite nice sights for a gun in the $400 territory. There's actually quite a few surprising features about this, the PMR-30. They kind of make it interesting for the price point that it's in, which is usually occupied by guns that are as simplistic as possible and as cheaply built as possible. Kind of looks like it's made out of Legos. It's kind of a unique looking thing. The trigger on these are comparable. Kel-Tec is rated at around 5 pounds, and the 5-7 is rated around 4.4 pounds. So both of them actually have quite a nice trigger. The F5-7, of course, is the FN 5-7. Now, unfortunately, this is a rimfire gun, and I'm not going to dry fire it, but I've got full reviews on both of these guns, so if you wanted to look at the full review and see more about the triggers and any of the details that we're going to kind of go over today, I'll put links to the full reviews. From a size perspective, you can see sitting here next to each other, they're roughly equal, but the numbers actually say that the FN 5-7 is 8.2 inches long, the Kel-Tec is 7.9 inches long. They're both roughly the same from a thickness standpoint, even though the 5-7 looks significantly thicker. It's really only 0.1 inches thicker. 1.4 for the 5-7, 1.3 for the Kel-Tec for the PMR-30. Let me pop the magazine out of the 5-7 so that they're sitting about equal. From a height perspective, the 5-7, it wins it by just a bit. It's 5.7 inches tall. It's kind of unique. I wonder if they did that on purpose. And the Kel-Tec is 5.8 inches tall. So for all intents and purposes, they're equal from a size perspective if you're trying to decide which one of these is going to fit in a holster or wherever it is you're going to keep them. The difference in size is not significant. Difference in weight can be noticeable. The Kel-Tec weighs a full roughly 7 ounces less than the Five-seveN. So from a weight perspective, there's almost no weight to this thing. And of course, the 22 WMR ammo isn't very heavy, so when the thing's fully loaded up, you really don't notice any weight. Both of them have Picatinny rails. And from a feature perspective, they're actually quite comparable. Now, one of the things that's kind of interesting about the Kel-Tec is it comes in a lot of colors. This is the black one, of course, but they come in OD green, tan, bronze, gray. So it comes in a really assortment of colors. The Five-seveN is available in flat dark earth, and the black one, of course, that you see right here. So when you get into a lot of these guns, the Kel-Tecs and the Skies, and many of them tend to do a number of different color variations. So if you're wanting a kind of a colorful, playful gun, which in all reality, that's what the owner of this uses this one for. For him, it's a range gun, it's a fun gun, it's I can go out and play all day, not get tired kind of gun. Now, 22 WMR is not cheap, but it's also not ridiculously expensive. The Five-seveN ammo is actually quite expensive. So taking this out for a range day and having a bunch of fun isn't going to require a new mortgage. Taking this out for a range day, you're going to think about it a little bit more. The ammo, you can get like the American Eagle ammo, reasonably priced, but you have to shop around. If you buy the ammo for this in the gun store at the range, if they even carry it, you're going to pay a premium for it. So for this, to feed this, you're typically going to find yourself shopping online and buying lots of 500 or 250 or whatever just you're able to buy. Because this is a different budget territory for this gun. A couple of the other features that are kind of comparable, they both have mechanical safety, a thumb safety, even though on the FN it's more of a finger safety, and it is ambidextrous, so you can get it with your trigger finger, whichever hand you've got. The Kel-Tec's got a more classic, at the back, 1911-ish safety, and it is also ambi. Both are really positive, but they're light enough to get easily and quickly. And even this finger one that's fairly flush, it's easy to operate, but it's got a positive detent. So if I'm just rubbing against it, like if it were being bumped against by a holster or something like that, it's not going anywhere. But when I want to flick it, I flick it, and it's actually flicked fairly easily. Neither one of these have replaceable back straps, but they've got full-size grips. They're kind of an oblong full-size grip. From a quality perspective, the FN definitely is a better built gun. It's built more solid. It's overall more robust. But again, it's a $1,300 gun. It's a $1,300 gun. Now, one of the things that I have noticed with the Kel-Tec, and talking to the owner, he's noticed it as well. Because the 22 WMR is a rimmed cartridge, originally meant for putting into certain types of rifles and revolvers, they don't really load well in magazines that are designed for automatics. So you have to load them carefully, you have to choose your ammo carefully, because the cases can tend to be fairly thin and weak. They don't need to be strong and robust like higher pressure cartridges. So it's easy to get rim lock if you're not careful, where the rims overlap improperly and hang up the magazine, or bend a case as you're inserting it. So you do have to take a little more time in the choice of ammo for the Kel-Tec, as well as the loading of the magazines, be a little more careful. Whereas this, you load it like any other magazine. You just jam the rounds in there, click, 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 done, you're ready to go. Because they're designed for an automatic, they're a rebated rim, and it's basically a rifle magazine, so that it's designed to load that type of ammo and loads relatively easily. So from the standpoint of being able to guarantee that I've loaded this mag, I've loaded it correctly, the ammo that I've chosen is going to work, and when I actually get down to the point of relying on it, that I'm not going to get a rim lock or any other type of issue, you're going to have better luck with the FN without having to pay as close attention to it. Not to say that Kel-Tec can't be reliable. This one has, in the experience we've had in the owner, but of course we're using magazines he loaded with its chosen ammo, so we had the expectation of reliability. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the two of them apart. I'm going to go one after the other, show you the internals, and then we'll wrap this up. Both of these are easy to disassemble. They're slightly different, but they're easy to disassemble, and no, you don't have to mess with the screws that are on top of it. even though they do give it kind of an interesting look. But there's the pin here you pop out. So you can use a pen, a Glock tool, a punch, anything to just push it just a little bit so that you can get it to protrude on the other side, and then pull it out. And yeah, it comes apart fairly easily. I had it nose down and it just slid itself apart. So the setup of this is a little bit different. Let me get the pen out of here. The setup of this is a little bit different from most guns. The way this recoil spring is, the way that it kind of sits into this recess, and this is actually the sliding barrel mechanism, and slides inside of it. This will lock inside of the frame. So the slide is actually operating back and forth on this assembly. And then there's a buffer up here so that if it bottoms out, if you happen to be using more powerful ammo and it bottoms out, it doesn't damage either component. And this is what you have to do to get it apart, is catch a hold of this spring and then take all the tension off and just kind of work it back until it frees up a little bit, then pop it out and it comes apart. And you can see the barrel up underneath there. This one can be a little bit interesting to take apart. And if you want to see the the full disassembly, you can see our full review. But it kind of gives you an idea of what's designed in here. And this whole recoil sliding mechanism is actually kind of interesting. Back end of it looks like more conventional, centerfire rifle that you might, or a pistol that you might be used to. Now, as far as taking apart the 5.7, it's actually just as easy, but it's a little bit different. You lock it back, and then you pull back on this little lever. And if you pull it back all the way, pull it back there to the halfway point, it'll stop. But if you pull it further back and hold it, then release it, when it's almost in battery, you just kind of bring it forward a little bit, and then it separates apart. So it's just kind of work it a little bit. It's not difficult to do, and of course when you're holding it, more aligned with your body, it's easier to do. And this is a more conventional setup that you're used to seeing. It's a recoil spring, which is actually fully attached to the barrel assembly, and then the barrel sits in it, and then you have your firing pin mechanism in through here. Now you'll notice one thing on this one is it's all steel inside here. So basically there's a steel slide covered in polymer. So it looks like the whole gun is plastic, but it's actually a complete steel slide wrapped up in the polymer. The Kel-Tec has some steel, but it's more steel inserts. This component steel, that component steel, and there's a bit of a steel guide up here in the front. But then the rest of it's polymer bolted onto that assembly, and that's what these 4 bolts do. So they attach the 2 pieces together. And I'm not going to make a quality judgment on either one for what this is intended to do. This is a much higher pressure rifle round. The 5.7, needs a little bit more robust assembly, and this is firing the 22 WMR, and this does work. I have not really heard anything about these things failing, prematurely. Beyond some of the issues that Kel-Tecs can have when they're first out, generation 1 problems, once they get beyond that, they tend to work. And he's had this thing for quite a while, and it's worked quite well. Putting either one back together is relatively easy. But before I do that, let me show you the frames. So you've got this is the Kel-Tec PMR-30. You've got some guides here. It's mostly polymer. You've got the hammer assembly, so it is a hammer gun. And the 5.7 is somewhat similar. The 5.7 has slide guides at the back, whereas the Kel-Tec has the stuff at the front, and both of them are of course hammer guns. So internally the architecture is fairly similar, and you'll find that here you can see the difference in thickness is a little more pronounced, where the 5.7 is a little bit thicker gun overall. But from a design perspective, both of them are fairly simple inside, as most hammer guns tend to be. There's not a whole lot going on in here. So I'm going to set the 5.7 down, put the Kel-Tec back together. Kel-Tec is easy. You just slide the 2 halves back together, get it back lined up, put the pin back in it, and it's back and ready to rock and roll. 5.7 is equally easy, just slightly different. What I need to do is line this hook up, if I turn it the right way of course, line this hook up with the assembly here, and it's kind of easy to do if it's facing you, but I just kind of rock it in until it's lined up, till it feels right. Cycle it, this automatically resets, and you're back in business. So from a maintenance perspective, either one of them is easy to maintain. It's just learning how you do the individual gun itself. The way I would look at it, if you're looking for a gun that's just fun to take out and play, regardless of your budget, the PMR-30 is just a lot of fun. It's inexpensive to buy, inexpensive to run, reasonably so. And with 30 rounds, the gun will run out long after your finger has gotten tired. If you mean business, especially if your budget supports it, and you're wanting something that's going to be dead reliable, that is a fairly, very powerful round, and gives you that capacity with the reliability, I would definitely lean towards the 5-7. They kind of serve two different roles between fun and fitting well into a smaller budget, and just going for the ultimate in quality. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell if you do. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.